Women retain the DNA of every man she's ever slept with. Who you lay down with, you pick back up in one way or another. Welcome back to the channel. It's Electric Beam. Today we are going to talk about telegony. Now, throughout the old world, the ancient and religious text, it was expressed that when a man and a woman have sex, they remain in permanent karmic bonds with one another. You might have heard this as soul ties. But even in the biological level, women retain the DNA of every guy they've ever been with. See, even back in the days of Aristotle, it was believed that individuals could inherit traits not only from their fathers, but other males their mothers had previously slept with. In other words, it was thought that paternity could be shared. So first, we got to understand that men and women were designed to carry opposite roles in nature. A man's body is designed to give off DNA. She's designed to receive DNA, reproduce the DNA to create a fetus, and then she can birth life. She is designed to give life. Her organs are designed to give life. A man's body is not designed to hold on to DNA. It's meant to spread it. It's meant to share the seed. He is the electric provider and she's the magnetic receiver. It's the yin and yang duality of nature. So the women of present day were biologically designed to carry one man's sperm cells every 7 years. And today they're carrying 3 to 5 plus different men's information. Now, before we really get started, I want you to think about this throughout the rest of the video. I want you to hold on to this in your mind. Think about all those different shows that are into paternity tests, DNA tests, like The Maury Show, Jerry Springer, and how they've been able to exist for so long. I also want you to think about how women have been able to remain so promiscuous, even after the fact of not knowing who their child's biological father is. So we're gonna get into the scientific term known as telegony, and I'm gonna break it down real quick for you. So let's say you and your girl have a baby, and the baby looks like her ex. What this is the occurrence of hereditary traits getting passed on to the child from previous partners of the mother. It doesn't mean she slept with her ex. It means a woman can get pregnant with one man, but the DNA of another man in her past, overrides the new man's sperm and fuses with the sperm, thus impregnating the woman. This is the metaphysical science of telegony. So this is how a lot of promiscuous women can't find their baby's father. And when you start looking into these cases, you'll see a lot of the women's kids don't look alike, but they'll all favor her. And the reason that they favor her is because she has the dominant DNA. They all came from within her. But they'll barely favor their father because each child will have a strain of DNA in them from the mother's previous partners. But if you take a woman who's been with one man her entire life, all her kids will look alike. Because their DNA just kept multiplying together, that became a more solidified DNA structure. Thus, all the kids sharing the same gene traits. Modern society has suppressed the scientific research of telegony by passing it off as pseudoscience, despite admitting that this does happen in other animals. And then there are even multiple scientists saying that this subject needs to be further studied also. And I bet I can guess what you're thinking right now. You're probably worried about your girlfriend, you don't want to believe it, you think it's bullshit. If you just Google PMID telegony, just Google PMID telegony, you'll find multiple studies backing this up as fact. And the funny thing is that animal breeders always knew this to exist. An interesting example is Lord Morton's mane. So this was a horse that was bred with a zebra at one point, and then later professionally bred with another horse, and that offspring from that horse had zebra stripes. This was over 100 years ago. Darwin and a few others knew this had happened. This was seen, it was believed as fact. And this has been out for a very long time. And just recently, more evidence has been coming out scientifically proving that this happens to humans also. We are not exempt. So as I've mentioned, it's clearly and explicitly written in almost every ancient religious text. And it's not about religion, but human testaments to experiences, guides, so to speak, literal and binded to real life metaphors contained within. They've successfully programmed us to think that sexual immorality and degeneracy is just everyday, ordinary, and completely normal. So let's break it down biologically. Inside a woman's body, she has a microchimerism that holds onto her DNA. She has a fetus microchimerism, and she also has a male microchimerism. And all of these microchimerisms are inside her brain. So when she gets pregnant, whatever is inside the male microchimerism fuses with her microchimerism and gets passed down to the fetus. Now, the thing with the male microchimerism in the woman's body is that this holds on to the DNA of every man she's ever been with. When a man releases in a woman, her body is able to separate the DNA from the sperm. The sperm will die off after 5 days, but the DNA from the sperm will transfer into the microchimerisms of her brain and begin to multiply. So if she's with one guy, doesn't get pregnant, the DNA of his sperm still stays in her body. Then another guy, and another guy, her body will keep separating the DNA from the sperm of these different men because her body is biologically designed to do so. So let's say she gets to the sixth guy, and that's the one to impregnate her. Now, depending on how many men she slept with, all those DNA that have been inside her waiting for her to get pregnant now turns into its own different DNA. It's a combination of all these DNAs that have already been there plus her own that goes into the fetus. So this is why in a lot of cases the dad's DNA test doesn't match up with the baby's, because the woman has been so promiscuous. Her body's been multiplying so many different men's DNA that she's passed on to the child a different man's DNA outside of its father. See, when we dive into the esoteric, tantra, to the initiated, sexual alchemy is the highest form of magic. It's the highest form of creation. And as many people are becoming aware of sex being an acronym for sacred energy exchange, it's an exchange of energies, emotions, thoughts, traumas, we begin to understand the importance of it. That everything in the universe is essentially information. What you do, what you eat, the activities you engage in, everything is being recorded in this realm. And this is just a prime example of it being stored in the material body and not just in the ethereal body. So we got to understand the metaphysical side of this. Even in ancient Israel, there was a belief of maternal impression, the idea that a powerful mental influence of a mother's mind could produce an impression, either general or definite, on the child she's carrying. This could be from one thing to birth defects to another thing like character traits. So a man's semen, or the astral fluid, is like a personal code, and the woman's body is a divine computer for that code to be placed in to bring life. See, if a man's sperm cell essentially has 37.5 megabytes of data, and one ejaculation is equivalent to over 15,000 gigabytes of data, you would need 60 laptops or more to use all that information. Now imagine a woman who's had 5, 10, 15 USB drives plugged into her. Imagine how much foolish and wicked data she's had plugged into her. Essentially, women are designed to be sponges for genetic material from their partners. And this is why in Genesis 2:18 it says, "A woman is made for a man to be his helpmeet," aka his wife, and she is bound to that man for life. The more promiscuous women become, the more they get high off a man's DNA. That imprint can create the illusion of sexual addiction, and this becomes a part of their neurological system, and it makes them crave more. They become a succubus, they become an addict, and it's the lying, the cheating, the gossiping, being overly sexual, the gaslighting, the lack of accountability. And this is why in those adult films, you might have wondered, how can these women do this with so many guys so freely? It's because she's an addict. She's getting high off of it. A lot of these film stars become depressed when they stop, and it's because they're no longer getting that quick dopamine release when they were working in the films. And now their body's going through withdrawal, so they're numbing that pain with drugs and alcohol. See, during sex, your body releases oxytocin, which makes you subconsciously bond with your partner. Brief attachment with many people leaves you feeling empty. It damages your trust, your empathy, your ability to feel intimacy. And this is why you see so many women and men doing such degenerate behaviors, playing games, catching bodies, manipulation. Manipulation is a form of black magic. So while men may not be storing this information to the same level, it still affects us on a metaphysical level also. You know, the idea of soul ties has become so popular lately, and every time I see it, it's always associated with something negative. But it only exists because it was created by the Most High to strengthen connections between lovers, between a man and a woman, between husband and wife. So when two people get into intercourse, the astral bodies, known as the subtle bodies of man and woman, merge together. This produces an umbilical astral-like tube. The astral ties strengthen with each sexual act, and the tie is to foster trust, affection, genuine love, and divine bonding in union. Even if y'all are strangers, this astral cord serves as a conduit to strengthen connection and loyalty to one another. It serves as a medium where a couple can share thoughts, ideas, feelings, and engage in astral level communication. These are all the essential elements required for couples to stay together and build a healthy, happy family unit. But they, the hierarchy enslaving you, is doing everything they can to destroy that. They know the importance of man and woman together. They know the importance of sex. They call it intercourse because it's an internal course that unites man and woman, mind with mind, spirit with spirit. And that's something a rubber can't protect you from, because energy is behind all elements of the flesh. And this is something I had to realize in my younger years. There's no such thing as friends with benefits. Intimate activity intertwines the energies between two people. And through these connections, imprints and debris are left on the mind, body, and spirit. They're not easily purged. Sex first takes place in the astral realm and then on the physical. So when you're constantly sleeping around with random people, you become jointed to every person that partner has slept with, as well as all the partners those people previously had. And this type of soul clutter can be felt by your partner's subconscious. It's like that weird feeling when you're with someone, and despite how well things seem to be going in your head, you can't help but shake the feeling that something is off. Or no matter how hard you try to make them happy, there's always an issue between y'all. You can observe certain women closely, and it becomes obvious why women with a high history of promiscuity always end up being unhinged or emotionally unstable. It's not that deep on the surface level, but many women will act just like the guys they slept with. They'll run the same game they learned from those guys they were with, and they'll act like that dude too. She might wear a mask to confuse you, but those other spirits eventually come out, and if you're an empath, you can sense the different spirits or personalities when they show up. You might think she's bipolar or crazy, she might say it herself, but it's really just all those different personalities expressing themselves. They're these subtle disturbances of multiple energies, or familiar spirits that have entered her, causing restlessness and inner turmoil. And the longer and more intimate the contact is with somebody, the more powerful the reinforcement and interaction of the bond becomes. All the more difficult it is for them to untangle and leave it. So soul ties are real, and there will always be some type of connection through sexual encounters, whether you want to believe them or not. The point is, be mindful of who you lay with. Not everyone deserves you, and there's a reason they say you can't make a hoe into a housewife. I want to emphasize, this is not to disparage, demean, or talk down to women. I understand there's many different aspects to consider, and based on our societal construct in society, we can often seek self-worth or love in the wrong places. Many women and even men have some negative experiences sexually, whether that's being taken advantage of, being promiscuous, and so on. So I want to emphasize that healing begins with self-cultivation in all aspects. Sexual healing and recovering, especially from traumas, are all part of this process. So this video is just another reason you sisters should strive to be what you were literally created to be. Every woman is a magnetic womb, a portal to birth and nurture said life. Protect your worth. Regardless of your attitude, sex will always be a thing of the soul, and it's evident that our actions carry profound consequences beyond what we can often perceive. Our choices affect our own lives, but also the lives of those around us and generations to come. This has been Electric Being, and I'll see you in the next one.